I just want to share with you today how I make Essiac tea. I started making this years ago. When about 27 years ago, I was breastfeeding my baby and I got a mastitis, and I've had a lump in that breast ever since. And a few years back, it was so bad I couldn't hug anybody. If I bumped something, it would hurt. And someone suggested that I try this, and I bought some bottles, but it was extremely expensive each bottle. So I researched several different types of recipes. I read Renee Casey's book. Her name's spelled backwards. Her name is Renee Casey, and she was a nurse. And she got this recipe from a medicine man. And I've read how lots of different people make it, and I kind of came up with a mixture of all of them. Working with a friend of mine, the best way to make it without destroying any of the herbs. Some people talk about, like, if you add the watercress too early, or use a 5-herb recipe, it's not as effective because you need the watercress to help you detoxify, things like that. Anyway, I used it years ago, and the lump went away, and I didn't have any pain with touch or anything. And then just recently it's come back. I'm not to the point where I can't hug anybody or anything, but I've just noticed it's back now, and I don't have the best of health, and I don't take as good care of myself as I probably should with a lot of stress in my life. So I decided to make some more of this. The first thing you need is the herbs and the jars to store it in. These are the type I like the best. I have used canning jars, and they do work, but you need amber or dark so that it doesn't spoil. I'm just showing you this. They do have this type in clear, but you would want not clear. You could paint the outside of this to keep it darker if you wanted, if you could only find these kind, but I'm sure you can find these kind online. I've just kept my eye out at secondhand stores because they were the easiest way for me to seal it and use it for myself. You also need distilled water, 2 gallons of distilled water, and then you need these 7 herbs. You need burdock root, sheep sorrel powder. You don't want powder. You want it in. It looks kind of, here it is. Looks kind of like wood chips. It's chunky. You don't want to grind it until you're ready to boil it because you don't want it to lose its potency. Then turkey rhubarb powder root powder, cat's claw bark powder, Siberian ginseng, slippery elm bark powder, and watercress powder. And some of them are kind of expensive, $20, $30, $11. These were years ago, so they're probably a little bit more now. This one's extremely expensive, $30, but it's a bigger bag. So they didn't have the bigger bag on some of these, so I ended up having to buy extra bags in there. Anyway, so this is what I do. Check out my blog, thesecretisgratitude.com, and type in Essiac tea in the search engine at the bottom of the page, and up will come the instructions for this and pictures. But I just want to hurry and go through it quickly. I don't want it to be a huge, long video, but always use glass or stainless steel when you're boiling. And I boil most of my herbs separately, and I'll explain that when I'm reading through it. And then I use I don't have a pot big enough that's stainless. I have aluminum canning pots, but I don't have a stainless big enough pot. So I bought this thing in a secondhand store, and it's worked great. I've used it many times. I just don't let it come through the plastic. I only use it for the boiling part, and then I ladle it into the jars. So stainless or glass only, and never stir it with a plastic spoon, only glass or stainless. So I just use a steel ladle, and you also need a coffee grinder to grind the burdock root into a powder. Oh, and you do that right before you boil it down because you want it to have as much potency as possible. So what I do is I take 6 scant tablespoons. It's going to be easier for you to go read it, and I'm just going to explain it quickly. I'm not going to read the whole thing. Basically what you do is you get some distilled water, boil it in the largest pan, and you put burdock root, sheep sorrel, and turkey rhubarb in it, and you boil that for 10 minutes at a rolling boil. Then you get another pan, and you boil the cat's claw. In another pan you do the ginseng, and another pan you do the slippery elm. And each of those boils at a rolling boil for 8. So you don't put the herbs in until they're boiling, so that you can calculate how long. Some other people think longer, but 8 to 10 minutes is as long as I feel like I want to boil these down, and it worked great for me. So each one is a different amount of water and a different amount of herb. And then you take the last one, which is watercress. This one cannot be heated as much as the other ones, or it will break down. And this is the one that you need to help you detoxify at the end. So, distilled water, jars. Now, I washed these significantly with hot water, and then I put them through the dishwasher. They've got some steam in them because they're still drying in the dishwasher, but I just wanted to show you. So, and then you can use hydrogen peroxide to clean the lids if you're using canning jars, and sterilize the bottles by boiling them. But you would need to paint the jars dark so that the light wouldn't break down the herbs. And then once you've got them all boiled for the amount of time they're supposed to boil, you stir the herbs, and then you just let them sit. So I've got the lids, and then you just cover them and let them sit for 6 hours. And then in 6 hours, I just set the timer. In 6 hours, I stir them and mix up the herbs again, and then I let them steep for another 6 hours, and then at that point I mix them into the larger pot there, and I do it in a specific order. And the reason I do it in this order is after researching several different sites and reading about it, it's like you wouldn't throw all the bread ingredients in at the exact same time, and each one has its own purpose and its own way that they put them in. So then I pour them in this order, and then you heat the whole thing to a boil. That's why I use the coffee urn. I boil the whole thing. I probably should just get a larger still pot, but it works. So boil the entire thing just to a rolling boil. Kills anything else that might have gotten into it or any problem. So you're boiling it down, and then you pour them into the amber jars. And because they're so hot, they should seal. So if you're doing regular canning jars, you can lay out a towel and turn them upside down, and they will seal with the heat. Will seal the seal. But these kind work great. I love these kind. So I think I have enough now that I can do all of them in the little rubber seal gasket type tops, because it's just so much easier to use. Okay, and then I took 2 ounces of it on an empty stomach in the morning, and 2 ounces before bed at night. And if you take pancreatic enzyme along with them, it will help break down the outer coating on the lump. And you don't eat for at least 30 minutes after taking the tea. And then I gradually increased to 5 ounces in the morning and 5 ounces at night. I never had any kind of reaction. I never had any kind of die off. I never had any kind of anything. All that happened over the 6-8 months that I took it was the lump went down, disappeared, and the pain went away, and I felt better. So I noticed results in the first week, but then by the second week I noticed a lot more results. And I will post this whole thing on my blog. Check out my other YouTube channel videos. There's over 400 on there. And feel free to ask me any questions. This is absolutely for own benefit. Talk to your doctor if you think you may have something that needs treatment. And I'm not claiming that this will cure anything or everything. I'm just sharing that it helped me when I was having pain and a lump in my breast, but I know what caused it, so it was probably just a clogged duct from 20-something years ago. My daughter's 27 now, so it was a long time ago, but then it just got worse and worse, and then it got better after I tried this. So this worked for me. It is a little bit of work with all the different pans. You need to use the stainless steel pans, make sure they're not aluminum or copper, and or you can use glass. And then I bought my herbs at just a local health food store. You can get them online, I'm sure. I don't know this company, Star West Botanicals, but I loved them and they worked. And also, I kept them in this sealed 5-gallon bucket, all of them with some of the jars once I'd emptied them, and because I haven't made it in years. And anyway, it was awesome and it worked great. And keep them in the fridge or the freezer, the herbs, so they don't go bad. And Good luck. Have a blessed day. Thanks for watching.